And it's time now for AT&T countdown to the College Football National Championship. And, the College Football Playoff Committee came to the conclusion that it would be Ohio State and not Georgia as the number one ranked team in the first release of the CFP rankings. The Buckeyes trailed at the half to Rutgers, but they were able to come back and cover in this game, surprisingly. But I'm curious what you guys' thoughts were at the first college football playoff rankings release. Scoob, what were your kind of initial takeaways?
We don't know what the formula is with the committee because there's so many contradicting things when it comes down to it. They talked about Ohio State and their strength of schedule and the wins that they've gotten, but then you look at number 2 and number 3 with Georgia and Michigan. They hadn't really showed us any big wins that shows them that they deserve to be in that spot. And I only say that because of number 4, Florida State. They had 2 top 25 wins, but we saw what Georgia did today. Great win against Missouri. That is probably the biggest win that they've had all season, Matt.
So you're seeing, this is the college football playoffs initial rankings that were released on Halloween. They will release another set of rankings coming up this Tuesday. But you make a good point, Maddie. Like, what are the criteria that the committee is looking at? And I mean, let me ask you this instead. What would your criteria be if you were in that room ranking the teams? Like, do you value strength of schedule? It can't mean everything, just like head-to-head can't mean everything.
Yeah, I mean, head-to-head's important. Strength of schedule is important, too. But I really would rely heavily on just the eye test. Right?
Really?
And how I value the way that teams look, the way that they're coached, the way that they are in situational football as well. So I would think more so I would stay away from the stats. I would stay away from like, oh, well, this team ranks this and this and blah. Like, I would just go off of how I view them each and every week. And that's why Ohio State, good football team, good defense. There is no way they're the number one team in the country. That's crazy. They absolutely should not be number one. Michigan, I know they've been doing maybe some questionable things that are borderline illegal, but they are the best team in the country. I know. I don't want to get into it too much. But Michigan's number one. Yeah. Georgia is the number 2 team in the nation. And number 3, probably going to put like a Florida State, right, in that situation.
Okay.
And now I know you put Ohio State in just because they are undefeated currently, but I know that Ohio State and Michigan, they're going to cancel each other out. So I'm not really worried about them being in the top 4, but I just know that one of them will not be there at the end. I think Oregon really is probably the 4th best team in the country.
If it wasn't for that loss against Washington,
they're
really the best team in the country with the way that they've been playing. I mean, right now, they're crushing.
Like, is Oregon a better team than Florida State? I would say so. They probably are. They're probably a better balanced team than Florida State. They're more consistent. I know that for sure, despite their loss. So that's where, even here, look at me talking in circles, right? And that's what the College Football Committee's doing,
That's the beauty of it, though. That's the beauty of it.
That is what's good about this. And that's why we need to make the bracket bigger.
By the way, Oregon beating up on Cal right now. I think it's 35-19 there.
Yeah.
All right, there were a lot of impressive wins today with college football playoff implications, right? We saw Texas. They were able to hold on, keep their college football playoff hopes alive. Oklahoma State, I mean, who knows what happens in the Big 12. But I don't think that you can have a more impressive win than Georgia and what they were able to do today against Missouri, right? I mean, that's probably the best win of the day when you look at it, Scoop.
Yeah, we knew coming into this game that if Georgia can walk out with it, then they have the best win of the day, because what everyone's been saying is Georgia doesn't have any good wins. They've been beating up on these bad teams. Not even really. I mean, sometimes they just haven't looked good against some of these bad teams.
Yeah.
But now, the back end of your schedule, you have the toughest schedule to finish out the season in FBS, and you get a 9-point win against Missouri and against a team that you struggled to beat last year as well. So shout out to Georgia for the win today, because they looked like them dogs.
Of the games the rest of the night, and there's really 2 that have huge playoff implications with LSU, Alabama, and Washington, USC. Maddie, which game has the biggest college football playoff implications of the 2, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's LSU and Alabama. It has to be, I feel like, because Alabama, to me, really is probably one of those could be top 4 teams in the country. Right. To me, other than Oregon, they're the 2nd best one-loss team in the country. And that's where I want to see them right now display their defense, their balance on offense. The running game is getting better. Their pass protecting a little bit better, despite the fact that they give up a few sacks. some of those are Jalen Milroe's responsibility, but I still believe that Alabama is one of the better football teams in the country, and this is going to be a great night to prove it. They're going to shut down this LSU offense and Jaden Daniels more so than any other team has in the country so far.
Caleb Downs, Kool-Aid McKinstry. I mean, those two players are
And
that
Caleb's a
Alabama.
freshman.
Yeah,
Is that crazy?
We saw Nick Saban on College Game Day earlier this morning, just talking about the football IQ that Caleb Downs has. A freshman. I mean, it makes no sense that he's this good right now. So this game against LSU is essentially an elimination game. I mean, whoever loses this game, you're gone and you're out. But it makes it really interesting that if Alabama is able to win out as a team who goes against Georgia in the SEC championship, I think they can make some noise.
Here's just a hypothetical quick before we move on. Let's say everything goes chalk the rest of the night. Let's say Washington wins. Let's say Alabama wins.
Yeah.
Do you think that the committee changes anything from based on what we saw today, and if the two games tonight go chalk? Or do we see the same rankings as we did?
Yeah, I'd be shocked, honestly, if Ohio State stays at the one position the way that they look today versus Rutgers. Now,
so that's enough to move them.
Rutgers is a good football team, right?
They played Michigan well.
Very well.
Yeah,
very well. They got a legit defense. Like, it's a top 10 defense in the country. They know how to stop offenses for sure. Greg Schiano, that's his specialty. He did better defensively than anyone else has at stopping Marvin Harrison this season with 4 catches, 25 yards. So that's crazy.
Right.
So I see them moving.
Okay, fair
Sorry
enough.
to go long.
No, please. Biggest game next week, too. There's a lot of big ones. You look at Ole Miss coming to town to take on Georgia. College Game Day is going to be there. Utah-Washington is another huge one with potential playoff implications if Washington's able to win and stay undefeated. Again, they're on the outside looking in right now.
Right.
USC and Oregon, that's another interesting one up there in Oregon, Michigan, and Penn State. The biggest out of those 4, Scoob, what do you think?
Ole Miss, Georgia, man. Ole Miss, Georgia is going to be a huge game because it's just going to add towards Georgia's resume.
And really, Ole Miss is the best offense that probably Georgia will see all season. But that was really impressive what Georgia did against Missouri today, right? Which is probably going to be the second best offense that they've seen this entire season. The other game, though, that it's all about Oregon, really. So, again, I value them as one of the better teams in the country, and just the way that they perform is going to be really important, especially against these ranked teams late in the year.
All right, so that was the AT&T countdown to the college football national championship, and the rankings, again, going to be released on ESPN every Tuesday night.